Welcome everyone to Safer Homes, Stronger Communities inside Alabama's Fortified Roof Program. We are joined today by Travis Taylor, who is the Director of the Office of Risk and Resilience for the Alabama Insurance Department. We are really grateful for his time and really excited to talk about this topic. My name is Susanna. If you've been to one of our webinars before, you have virtually met me. I am the co-founder and COO of Forerunner. Thank you all for being here. And let's get started. If you were at our last webinar, you will know that we have started to do trivia, and there is a prize. So we are going to do a trivia this morning, if it's morning for you. If it's lunch for you, hopefully you've gotten your coffee in and you can do a trivia really fast. And we're going to start it here. So the way that you join it is you go to www.kahoot.it and you enter this game pin, or you can scan the QR code. The game pin is 4047676. So we'll give you a sec to log in. And we do have a prize. So if you join trivia and you win, then you'll get a prize from us. We'll contact you to get your mailing address afterwards. And if you are feeling generous, you can donate to a friend or something like that. Awesome. We have a few people joining here. I should note that, if you're here for, you'd like CEC credits or anything like that, trivia is not a requirement for getting that, but it's kind of fun to play. Thanks to everyone who joined. And we will get started. We have a few people. All right. This is Travis Taylor's trivia. Travis, I'm sorry I'm asking it instead of you.
That's all right.
So there's three questions. The first question is, what year was the Strengthen Alabama Homes Program legislation established? So you have a few options: 2005, 2016, 2011, and 2010. So we'll figure out how much pre-work you've done ahead of attending this webinar. I have a bunch of answers. It should be noted that you also get points for speed. And the most people answered 2011. And what is the answer, Travis?
That is correct.
Oh my goodness. So yes, and then nobody answered the last one. MJ is leading us with 879 points on the scoreboard. Next question is, what is the maximum amount that eligible homeowners can receive through the SAH grant to retrofit their homes? What's the maximum amount? Is it $3,000? Is it $10,000? Is it $8,000? Or is it $5,000? Honestly, there's nothing outrageous here, so any of them could be answers. I see everyone is chiming in pretty quickly. And you have one more second to answer. And the majority of people answered $10,000, which I believe is also correct.
That is correct.
Oh my gosh. Pretty on top of it. MJ continues to lead with 1,771 points. And our last question, approximately how many homes have been retrofitted or hardened through the Strengthen Alabama Homes program to date? All impressive numbers here: 2,800, 3,500, or 9,500. Take your guess. And it looks like the most people answered 2,000, but the answer is actually 9,500, which is incredible as well. So we're maybe underestimating the strength of that program. But Morgan Potts at third place, Hervey at second place, and then I'm assuming that this is MJ. MJ has won. So that's amazing. Thank you everyone for playing. Let us know if you like trivia. It's a new thing that we've started doing. And then MJ will be in contact with you about your prize. Did you like trivia, Travis? It's a little bit of a
Yeah, it
spirited
was
start
good.
to a webinar.
When you weren't supposed to do it, yes.
Eileen typed it in.
Awesome. All right, let's get started. So I'll do a brief
That's fine.
introduction and then we'll get to the nuts and
Okay, but
bolts of talking to Travis about his work. So some housekeeping, this presentation is being recorded and we will share it via email after the webinar, so don't worry about furiously jotting anything down. If you have any questions, please post it in the chat. Would also love for you to introduce yourselves in the chat if you haven't already. I see Eugene um, uh, introducing himself bravely as the first person there. We are also offering ASFPM CEC as well as zero point 0.1 ICC CEUs for this webinar, and we will send the certificate to you and ASFPM and ICC next week. Please reach out if you have any additional questions. On the continuing education credits, there is a post-webinar survey, so please fill that out as well. And let us know if you have any questions. And I see everyone chiming in the chat. It looks like people from all over the country, so that's really exciting. So if you haven't heard about Foreigner before, we host these webinars pretty frequently. Really thrilled to have Travis today. We are a software company. We work with over 180 of the most at-risk cities, counties, and states throughout the U.S., including the state of Florida, MEMA, but then also counties like Palm Beach County and cities like Hattiesburg, Mississippi. As part of that work, we get to learn a lot about awesome people doing awesome things, which is why we're really excited to talk to Travis today. And if you haven't heard of Foreigner and what we do, we empower government agencies to do more. We empower some of their resilience workflows, as well as just their day-to-day government workflows. So really thrilled to be having this conversation today. In particular, why we're excited to talk about the Travis's program is because Foreigner, we have recently begun supporting grant management workflows for some of our partners. In particular, if you're interested, we have a case study on our work with the Mississippi Insurance Department and their FORTIFIED program, so we'll drop that into the chat as well. And if you're interested in software more broadly, you can use it to do things like centralized grant data, as well as sharing data and documents via a public website. And with that, I would love to introduce Travis. And if you were at our last webinar, we're going to do this one in a similar way where it is going to be a Q&A with Travis. So hopefully that'll be pretty exciting. And please feel free to chime in the chat with questions as they come up. So very thrilled to have Travis here. I've said that a few times now, but Travis Taylor is the director of the Office of Risk and Resilience for Alabama's Insurance Department of Insurance. He is an Alabama native, as well as an Army veteran who brings more than 25 years of experience to the Alabama Department of Insurance. He's worked in a variety of professional settings, ranging from sales in the pharmaceutical industry, which is not for the faint of heart, to program management in the Department of Defense contracting offices, which is also not for the faint of heart. His experience with companies like Boeing and Northrop Grumman have allowed him to manage multi-million-dollar contracts and programs within the government space. That experience has made him really a perfect fit to manage the Strengthen Alabama Homes grant program, along with being the floodplain administrator for the state of Alabama. So just a few casual hats in the state, nothing serious, but we are very thrilled to have him here and to be able to pick his brain about his work. And with that, let's get started. So Travis, we'd love to start at the beginning. You obviously oversee the Office of Risk and Resilience at the Department of Insurance, and the Strengthen Alabama Homes really sits at the heart of that work. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the program came to be, what problem it was created to solve, and the role that you play in leading it today? And you are muted as well, sorry.
How about
There you
now?
go.
Sorry.
Perfect.
So let me try that again. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. SAH is one of those things I could talk about for hours. Only we have 50 minutes today, but that's not a big deal. This program was started, let me back up. It was actually on the heels of Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Ivan. Our former insurance commissioner, Jim Ridley, was kind of the brainchild of this, and he was an insurance executive for 30 years before coming to the department. Our then governor, Bob Riley, sent Jim down to the coast of Alabama after these two hurricanes and said, we got to do something different. And Jim understood that if we didn't change the economics after a storm, nothing would be different. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting something different to happen. And that's what we had done. That's what the Gulf Coast had done. Hurricanes hit, they devastate communities, they devastate towns, they wipe whole towns out, and we just rebuild it, and we expect, it'll be okay the next time. Well, that's not the case. And so Strength Alabama Homes was born after Jim got back and assembled a good team. And we fought through legislation, through all kind of appeasing different political groups. And finally, it came to pass. We got the legislation done. We got the funding squared away. And here we are today, almost, a little over 10 years later.
You make it sound pretty easy, but I know it's not very easy.
No,
Um,
it's not very easy.
you talked a little bit about appeasing different political groups and sort of getting legislation passed. I know that is like a pretty difficult thing to do. I'm curious to know, what really helped build consensus.
I think it was the fact that one of the ideas for funding this program didn't come out of the general fund. The money that goes into our general fund for our state operating budget is not touched by
Mm,
the what we use to fund this. We are able to retain a certain percentage of the insurance fees that we collect throughout the year from agents, companies, all that. So that funds this program. And two, resilience is one of those things that should not be affected by political views. A hurricane does not ask if you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent. It didn't ask how old you are, what your nationality is, what your religion is. Same way for a tornado. So we have been very fortunate. No, nobody has ever come out to my knowledge and said, we don't like this program.
yeah,
Very similar to things I've done all over this country, talking about resilience.
yeah.
Nobody's ever said, no, we don't need that. But it's one of those things that all costs money, and that is the at the base of it, we have to figure out ways to fund it, and that's what we've done.
Yeah. Yeah, I think totally get what you're saying in terms of like, from a purpose standpoint, people don't tend to say like, hey, that's not a thing I care about. But then when it comes to the kind of nuts and bolts of funding something, that becomes a little bit more like mechanically difficult. So I appreciate you kind of drawing that delineation.
Sure.
So I'm sure there are a couple of people in the audience who are hearing about Strength in Alabama Homes for the first time. And our next question kind of asks you to describe it in plain terms. Who qualifies for it? What does the grant cover? And what does it take for a homeowner to end up with a fortified roof?
Sure. Well, part of the legislation that we passed, we have two coastal counties in Alabama, Mobile and Baldwin County, and we allocate money. We drop money into a grant pool 4 times a year at the beginning of every quarter. It is an online application process
Hmm.
that people go to our website, they register, and they wait. And the funny part is these grants go faster than Taylor Swift tickets. They are really, we put hundreds of grants in the portal at the beginning of every quarter, and they're gone within, minutes. As a matter of fact, we just did a launch last week of our first quarter of FY26. And the grants were gone in 155 seconds. They were all gone. And it's a very difficult process. Our outside program office does it, handles all of our software needs, and it goes very, very fast. The process is pretty simple. Once you get in, which is not an easy task, I should say, but once you get in, our program allows you to pick a home evaluator that comes out to your home. checks your house for, it has to be basically in good repair. It has to be, free from a lot of debris, things like that. And then the evaluator says, hey, we can proceed. A contractor is picked from then on. Contractor comes out, gives the estimate. And again, anything over the $10,000 is between the contractor and the individual. But once that's done, we send a check to the contractor for the work. When the job is complete, the insurance or the homeowner receives a certificate for a fortified home. They take that to the insurance agent, and as part of our legislation as well, for an Alabama company, you have to give a discount to your homeowner that has that fortified certificate. And that's the quick way.
I do appreciate your ability to make things something really quick and like sound very simple that is all obviously very complex. I'm curious to know, sort of in that process, what are there any sticking points, like points where it's like a little bit harder to move through than others, or does it feel like it's like a pretty regular kind of cadence?
It's pretty regular. There are folks, unfortunately, in some of the rural parts that may have a slower internet speed. We can't control that. There are frustrations that I deal with it every day. Our staff deals with it. I wish I had a great answer for those people. But it literally is so fast of hitting the button to try to get a grant. It's just extremely lucky to get one, because the odds are, we'll have anywhere from 75 to 100,000 people on our website waiting for those few hundred grants every quarter. And it's extremely difficult to get in. But those that, once you get in, the process is pretty easy. And our staff is here to help along the way. And we have 2 or 3 people. That's all they do all day, is talk people through the process of getting the online application.
I think it's a great segue into actually not the next question, but the question that we have after this, which is, you're talking about it being like you said a 54-second kind of window the last time. Is that exactly what you said?
No, 155 seconds, just over.
Oh, okay. I was like, a 54 is crazy. It's like a Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah. Well, for she's on a little different level as far as the amount of tickets, but fortunately it's pretty close.
Yeah, that's really, really fast. And you talked about a few ways in which you've managed it. Are there any other things that you've done to manage program demand?
Well, we have, fortunately for us, in 2016, we were given, our legislation was amended that we were allowed to move the program northward in Alabama. And we've done that through our partnerships with some of our nonprofits. Habitat for Humanity is one. There are countless others within our state, but has allowed us to move our program northward. And as we tell people all the time, the hurricanes, thank goodness, only come ever so often. Now, when they come, they pack a punch and they do a lot of damage. But for us, throughout the state, tornadoes, hailstorms, windstorms happen all the time. And we decided, and we knew that it was not just a coastal problem, right, or a coastal peril. We had to move it north, and for us right now, of our 67 counties in Alabama, we're in 34 of them. So we're about we're a little over halfway there.
Yeah.
And my goal is to get it statewide within the next couple of years.
2 years. That's pretty.
Hopefully.
Okay.
We have
We're gunning for 2 years.
Yeah, we have a few pilot things we're going to do in the fall, or in November, I should say, next month. We're going to open up into 3 new counties in our online application process, which is going to do some things differently. And then hopefully, as funding allows, we'll be able to spread it around a little bit more.
Yep. Awesome. That's exciting. Earlier, you also talked about, one of the potential issues being that people don't necessarily have fast internet speeds or reliable internet access, perhaps in like the more rural parts of Alabama. Um, and I think, we have a question on that. It's like, how do you make sure Strength in Alabama Homes is reaching a diverse set of households, rural households, low-income households, otherwise underserved households? I know that the Selma story is one example where you and partners kind of went door to door, working with community leaders, and managed to retrofit 3 homes a day, which is crazy. Can you talk a bit about that and what lessons it's taught you, as well as like any other sort of things that you're doing to reach out to underserved communities?
Sure. Our work with our nonprofits have really allowed us to touch some of the underserved communities. Selma was a prime example. We went into a small area of Selma that was really ravaged by a tornado, and we were able to partner with UAB, which is University of Alabama Birmingham Hospital, and partner with them and a few other construction companies, and we were able to go in and we put 40 roofs into that community or into that little section of town. And that's just one example. We've done multiple projects like that throughout the state. We have a couple more we're doing with UAB in the spring of next year. And so that work and those partnerships have allowed us to reach some of our underserved communities, lower incomes, because that's how SAH began. It was going to serve those, and then there were some changes made, to get the political buy-in that we had to get all over the state. We changed that, but when our legislation was amended in 2016, we were able to spread it north, and our habitats and a lot of our other organizations have been able to help us push it northward.
Yeah. Well, that's really exciting. I think being able to being able to sort of reach households that like have a hard time sort of like reaching things that are accessible online is the challenge I think that
No doubt.
a lot of the people in the audience can relate to. It's just like a constant challenge of like government, right? Like making sure that
Yeah,
grant opportunities are available, but then also just that like, information is made available to everyone in the way that they are consuming information, which is not necessarily always on a website or via email.
correct.
I think sometimes we forget that, particularly like us working in software, right? Um,
Yep.
there's a couple questions actually in the chat that are maybe related to the next question that we
Okay.
have for you. So the first question is, can you talk a little bit more about the program? Is the program charged with the engineering design, or is the homeowner doing that work? And are only primary homes eligible?
Yes, well, first of all, let me back do that. It is a single family occupied home.
Okay.
Is it? And as far as the engineering goes, we leave that to the home evaluator. And
Mhm.
these evaluators and these construction companies are not state employees. They are completely independent contractors, but they are trained, and their watchdog is the IBHS, the Internet Institute for Business and Home Safety, who we adopted the fortified standard from. Uh, and they are trained by them, they're licensed by them. So they're their watchdogs for that. And we're not engineers. I'm not one, and I don't claim to be. So I let those other professionals do their jobs when it comes to that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then in terms of like selecting contractors and managing construction timelines and inspections, it seems like you sort of make information available, but that the homeowner sort of selects them. Is that correct?
Our program, our SAH portal, it randomly picks. So
Mm,
there's there's a parity all over our state.
yeah.
And as they get 3 to choose from in the beginning, they reach out to those. If for some reason uh, they don't choose them, they can come back to us and they will get 3 more. So it's a random selection of contractors to pick from. And some have a better experience with others, just the personal interaction. so we give that opportunity to them, and they're able to pick the one that suits them best and can work on their schedule as well.
I think that's a great segue into our next question, which is, I think a program like this only really works if there's a workforce to deliver it and to deliver
Mhm.
it well. How have you built and sustained a contractor network that's really fluent in fortified standards? And beyond the workforce, how has SAH really influenced the broader building industry?
Sure. Well, I can tell you, we have about 20 to 25 contractors that work on our program. Not as many evaluators, just because their purposes are a little different. Um, but the contractors themselves stay with our program because of consistent funding. Number one, it's not a fly by night. It's been going on for a little over 10 years now. So our money is always there. We pride ourselves on paying contractors on time. And if you've ever dealt with contractors, a lot of time those folks are, they have a lot of money going out and coming in at the same time, and we are not hindrance to them. When they provide us with the documents that they've done the job, they get paid, and so that's allowed us to maintain those relationships for the most part. And then the fortified standards, we hold our contractors to a very high standard. IBHS holds them to a very high standard, and the evaluators as well. They are constantly trained. Uh, they're updated. They have very good relationships with the IBHS folks, and they're always there to answer questions for them. And we let them do their jobs. We stay out of their way most of the time.
Yeah, and it just sounds like also you don't just stay out of their way, you also resource them, it sounds like with knowledge and
Absolutely, absolutely, and we're there for them as well. I mean, there are certain uh, instances where they need our assistance, and I have gotten in the car more than once and gone to a site and dealt with a customer's expectations about the program and what it does. And we're a partnership. We serve the citizens of Alabama, and that's our goal. So that's what we do.
uh I think that, I think sometimes people underestimate the power that, you just like showing up and being there and acting in partnership with the contractors.
Oh yeah, no, and I love that. That's
Yeah.
I'm a sales guy at heart, and so if the customer, it's one thing to see them, talk to them on the phone, but when you're there and it shows that you care, and because we do, it's our reputation, it's my reputation, um, this program, and we're known worldwide, whether we like it or not. And
Yeah.
Alabama's. I've been on calls with folks in Australia, and I kind of I almost giggle every time, you're on the phone with some folks from international, and they're talking about what did you do in Alabama that's making it so good? And
Yeah.
so it's pretty awesome to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised, and I'm also curious what your giggle sounds like.
It's kind of deep, as you can imagine.
It's a deep giggle. It's a chuckle,
Yeah.
maybe.
It's a chuckle, not a
Yeah.
giggle. Well,
It's a,
I am a dad of three girls, so I giggle too, but
yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah. You can code switch between the laughs. Your
That's
laughs
right.
take many
That's right.
forms. Awesome. Well, Ashleen is actually ch controlling our slides, and I'm going to challenge her to go back a few slides to a question that we have around impact, because we got a question in the chat about how many homes have been mitigated via the grant program, and we do have a question for you around, how you've kind of scaled. So, you've helped to take SAH from a pilot project to a full-fledged statewide program. You've talked a little bit about how you're scaling into the future. And we have some stats. Today you've invested more than $83 million and also reached over 8,400 homes, and also helped build the largest concentration of fortified roofs in the country, over 60,000. And, you just talked about the fact that, Australia is like really on the other side of the world, and
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
is just like, this is a really kind of banner program. And you talked about how you're a salesperson at heart, and I'm sold on how this is like an amazing program. I guess the question is, looking back, what were the first few moves that made this kind of scaling possible?
I think it's centered around the funding. I think when we started, we had $1 million. You could do 100 roofs, and you had 1.5 million, and then you had 2 million. And we really thought, and my commissioner, Mark Fowler, who is our current commissioner, was around. He was the chief of staff for Jim Ridley when all this was happening. And he'll tell you, he thought this was really going to be a $2 million a year program, not going to be, as big as it is. And we laugh. He and I consistently are speaking to groups all over and the country. And as I mentioned, California, helping them get their mitigation program started. And it's amazing that now we're at anywhere from 15 to 17 million a year. And it kind of depends on what our project level is and
Yeah.
with my staff and the handling of the programs. But we've been averaging about anywhere from 15 to 1,700 homes a year over the last 3 or 4 years. So it's really been good.
That's incredible. Do you have any advice, I guess, for anybody who is like, what did you say to the Australian people?
Get started. It's not fast. It's not
Yeah,
going to be a quick process, but you
just
got to
do
get
it.
started. You got to get started. You got to start asking the questions. The good thing for us is that, and I mentioned this to Ashland earlier. Hurricane Sally was a Category 2 hurricane that came into Alabama a few years ago, and it was the first time that a major hurricane came over a concentration of fortified homes. And the you never want to, and it's not a great way to say this, but we took the results from Hurricane Sally and did a study, and we interviewed all of these people and all these people on the coast and through our data call, and the results were staggering at the reduction in claims, the reduction in money that these companies paid out, these insurance companies paid out. And the one word that kept coming into the mix after this study was validation. This hurricane helped us to validate the fortification program. With the number, it was just a staggering number of reductions in claims, loss ratios. And the amazing part is a lot of the claims that were filed by people that had fortified homes, it was not from the wind or not from the storm surge. It was from trees falling on the houses. And because of all the rain that we had, it saturated the ground and the root systems couldn't hold on. But for us, it's we're looking to these new states that are starting programs, and our program is mature enough that we want to sit back now and we want to watch some of these other programs. We want to watch how they do things and we want to pick up things. Not that we have it all figured out, but we tell people all the time we stepped in the potholes. We've driven into the ditches already. We'll help you. We're an open book when it comes to that. We want everybody protected as much as possible. Our insurance companies are all for this program. They helped us fund it in the beginning. A lot of our insurance companies were pulling out of the coast because of hurricanes. They couldn't afford the risk, or the risk was too high. And now these companies, for me, that's one of the most gratifying thing is these insurance companies are going back to the coastal communities and they're writing policies together.
There's so much to unpack in what you just said. I think, you talking about earlier you just talked about how like your number one piece of feedback is just to jump in. And to your point, I think that you jumping in initially makes it a lot safer for everyone else to jump in, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then also just your willingness to share knowledge. It sounds like, you spend quite a bit of time sharing knowledge.
Yep.
I'm sure that's invaluable, probably to the people that are in the audience, but then also just like, across the country, and apparently around the world.
Sure.
But I also
Absolutely.
think, I want to acknowledge the fact that you're talking about Hurricane Sally, I think you said, providing, did you say validation?
Hmm.
Validation. And I think, sometimes for our programs, whether they're sort of grant programs or other sort of programs, we don't necessarily sort of think back to measure impact. And I think that, the study that you did there is likely really helpful proof for anyone who is standing up a program now to say like, look, it's probably way easier to do what you said at the beginning of the conversation, which
It
is get political buy-in.
it absolutely is, and that's we have been very proud of the fact of our Hurricane Sally report has given a lot of states the push, right? Because look, everybody wants to do it. There, like I said earlier, there's
Yeah.
nobody that says, "Oh, this is a bad thing."
I hate helping people.
I hate
Yeah.
helping people. I hate protecting people, but it always comes down to funding, right? Well, the stats and the dollar figures in
Yeah.
this Hurricane Sally report
Big
validated it.
ROI. Yeah.
It proved to the industry, it proved to the world that this works. And that has been one of our most gratifying things is in a lot of these states that we have helped get started. Um, our affiliation with the NAIC, which is the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, uh,
Hmm.
Brian Powell, who runs their CIPR department, he helps people all over the world. And Brian had my job before me, um, and Brian was very involved in the beginning and starting this program as well. And he speaks about that now. That's his full-time job. So he and I kind of share that role. I'm focused still on Alabama now, where Brian does it globally. Any people I kind of refer, if I can't help them or I can't spend the time with them, if they call
Yeah.
me Brian, and vice versa as well.
That's
So
amazing. Yeah.
pretty cool.
I think I'm also struck by, you're talking about the big shifts in the insurance market
Hmm.
in Alabama, and that is really incredible. And it's not really a thing that happens that often or frequently, right?
Sure.
And so, and you talked about how companies that once avoided the Alabama's coast now seek out fortified policyholders. That's a huge shift. And, I think that's the program has contributed very greatly to that. I'm curious to know if like there are any other factors that you feel like are at play.
Um, I think the customer awareness is helping. I think a lot of these insurance companies, not only them, but I think the amount of uh, jobs this creates, for not only the construction people, but the insurance companies themselves. A lot of our groups on the coast, um, you know, a lot of the insurance companies, or I'm sorry, a lot of the construction companies that we have in the program, they all started on the coast because of this program. And they have partnered with us and helped us push this thing all the way to the northernmost counties in Alabama. And I think we continue to do that. And I think that's going to be the what we do for the local communities as far as workforce goes, but our continued commitment to putting money into these communities is really the great part.
Yeah, that's amazing. We talked about how far the post Hurricane Sally kind of data really went to validating the work, and I guess I'm curious to know, is there anything else that's contributed to making an ROI case, not just for homeowners, but also insurers and policymakers? You're just talking now about like sort of anecdotally, how locally like the opportunity creation is also really, really helpful. Is there anything else that's sort of contributing to how you are like consistently making a case for why the program is so important to keep momentum year over year and funding strong for the long haul?
Well, and I always go back to money, right?
Yeah.
And the discounts that people receive, the personal uh, discounts they receive off the wind portion of their premiums, uh, uh, the ROI is sometimes 5 or 6 years, especially for our coastal communities, because that is the biggest portion of their insurance premium. And now, so on a 15 to 20-year roof, right, of what your lifespan of that roof is with no more wear and tear, if I can get it paid for in 5 or 6 years and still get that discount, then I'm making money. So that's what it comes down to in a lot of cases. And it was interesting in Selma, uh, we did that for that little town, and that was a very underserved, very low economic area within Selma that we helped it. And I told them at the end of the program, I said, "You guys are going to be upset with me." And they said, "Well, how can we be upset with you? You just gave us a new roof on our house, and and it's unbelievable." I said, "No, now you have an insurable product. You're going to have insurance agents calling you, trying to sell you some insurance." And they said, "Oh, I said, "No." And I'm telling you, do what you can do to figure out how to get it, because you think you're protected now, but look, the storms are coming. It's not a matter if, it's when. And when they come, if that tree falls on the back corner of your house, guess what? Your insurance, you pick them up the phone, you call them, they come fix it. And they replace it just back to the fortified standard that it was. And I said that part of it, and those stories are passing and they're moving around all over our country and all over the world. And it protects, your biggest investment, which is your home. And this program works without a doubt.
You're making me acutely aware of the fact that I should probably replace my roof as well. Um,
Yeah,
it's a lot
you
too.
never know.
Yeah. I just have a couple more questions. And then for the audience, we want to get Travis out here exactly on the dot at the 50-minute mark. So if you have any questions that you want to sneak in, please feel free to type them up now while I ask a couple more. But I guess, you talked a little bit about expansion to additional counties and then also sort of northward. Is there anything else in terms of how the program is going to be expanding? Broadening eligibility, et cetera.
We're hoping, it all comes down, I've said it too many times on this call, but funding is the key.
Yes.
And we are going to make some plays to some of our contingency to get more funding, right, to where we can expand this program more into the state of Alabama. Uh, Ultimately, I'd love to put a roof on every home. That's not realistic and it's not even um, feasible. But at the same time, so many people have taken it upon themselves to do it because of you mentioned earlier, we're almost 60,000 fortified homes in the state, and we've only done 9,500. So the messaging is getting out there that people have taken upon themselves to go do it. Sure, they like have $10,000, and that would be great to help out with that cost, but they do understand we have to do it. We have to protect ourselves and protect our families, and that's what's happening.
That's great. So my last question, as long as no one else has any others, is would love to close with a myth busting question. What is one misconception that you hear all the time about Fortified or about this grant program, and what is the actual truth?
Oh, let's see. What is one?
Or are you so good at communications that there's no
Nah,
many?
I won't say that. I would think uh, the application process.
Yeah.
I wish I knew of a better way, an easier way for more people. You know, we've done thousands and thousands of these homes. I know it's frustrating for some folks, and some folks may think, oh, well, there's only certain people that get them, and I live in you know in the middle of this rural community. I'm not eligible. No, that's not the case. We do those things. We do them as fairly and as fastly. We don't that's why we don't pick the applications, right? It is strictly an online application process, and it's done that way. We don't get to pick them, and I wish I could. I wish I could help every
Everyone.
citizen.
Yeah.
I wish I could, but I just don't have the money to do that. And that's why this application is, and it's one per household, so nobody doubles up.
Yeah.
It's one per household, one per address. So, and that's the other good thing about this program. If somebody does spend the money and get it, through this application process, it stays with the home. It doesn't go with the homeowner, right?
Yeah.
So your address has that discount tied to it from the fortification process. So if you sell your home, the new owners get that as well. So it stays with that address, which is a really cool thing. It
That is really
doesn't
cool.
go with the homeowner themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's not even a thing that I like sort of thought about, but it totally makes sense. And
Yeah,
you're talking about how you can't meet the entire need, but I think you're doing a pretty amazing job as is. So
we're trying. We're
yeah.
trying.
Um, awesome. Okay, well those are all our questions. I think well, we got one that snuck in. Uh, let me just read it for a sec.
Okay.
I'll just read it verbatim. So the question is, do you have the program identified after a community is impacted by a severe storm? If it is, does your team assist residents work with the grant as they work with their insurance companies?
Yes, we
Mhm.
we do that. We have a really strong relationship with our emergency management group. Uh, their director and my commissioner are really close friends. But not only that, they're cabinet members. So we do our best to monitor with those guys. And if there is a need somewhere, we go to that need. And a lot of times in that particular instance, we may, just like Selma,
Yeah,
uh, we may not do the online application. We may figure out a way to locate a pot of money
yeah,
that we're going to use for that particular community.
amazing. It's also a really good segue into a plug for our subsequent webinars. I think thank you so much uh,
Sure.
to Travis for joining us. I think I learned a ton about your program, and I just feel really heartened by the progress that you've made. It just feels really meaningful, and appreciate the way that you've talked about it and your transparency as well. For
Absolutely.
those of you who are interested in joining us for future webinars, we have a couple that are actually centered on post-disaster response and emergency management. So one is with the Resilience Branch Chief for California's Office of Emergency Services, and then the subsequent one is with the president of Bright Harbor on the future of emergency management. So if you'd like to pick up where we left off here, please join us for one of those webinars, and then join me again in thanking Travis for his time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate all the knowledge that you shared with us.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks everyone as well for joining.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Have a good day.